Hey everybody, and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program. This is episode 9, Drones Working! This is our new, completely unmanned, single stage to orbit drone aircraft that will actually do work. We're not just going to take a demonstration flight. We know that our comm network will work whether or not we have a satellite directly overhead or not. And it's time to put this leap in technology into effect and use it to actually do something. So, I've decided that it's time to go back to the moon, which is something I did before I started recording for this series, basically to get enough science to unlock spaceplane parts. But this time we're going to go back, well, not this time, but soon. We're going to go back and we're going to do it for real. And our new aircraft, which I did test off screen, flies perfectly well. We've seen about 1 billion ascents before, so we're just going to kind of fast forward through most of this. I have disabled the fuel flow from the forwardmost tank. Basically, I want to make sure that we've got something left in there to get us back home. Oh, that's always pretty, isn't it? Alright, and now we're on rocket power, still connected through our satellite network. Using a little bit of RCS to help kind of deal with that little wobble. It has a tendency to want to pitch down and wobble back and forth a whole lot. But this is something I have in a lot of my aircraft designs. I don't know if it's a common problem or if it's just me, but, you know, hey, they work. They do require a lot of effort sometimes, but they get the job done, right? I mean, they're good in the atmosphere at low enough speeds. They're pretty stable. This one's no exception. I did thoroughly test this aircraft both in takeoff, maneuvering, and landing, just to avoid a repeat of what happened last time, which was basically a catastrophic landing failure. Now, I was hoping to time this takeoff well enough to be able to just hit a new apoapsis and go straight onto the moon to take as much of an advantage of that O-berth effect as I could. Doesn't look like that's going to happen. We're going to have to move this maneuver node a little bit. As long as we can keep it outside of the atmosphere, we should be okay. Wouldn't it be cool if you could get an altitude readout when you go to set a node? Is there a mod for that? I mean, I know, yeah, you could just hit it retrograde until it becomes the apoapsis, but that's no fun. It's alright. This is still going to be a little behind track, but that should be okay. Alright. That's looking pretty good. Let's just get it. Yeah, okay. 12,000. It's not bad. Really, I like to plot for an intercept course because that means I can decide where exactly I'm going to come across my lunar periapsis. I usually do that just before I hit orbit. Alright, this is our drone core with our communications relay. Now that we're high enough up, I'm going to go ahead and turn on the long range antenna. Try to get us a little more altitude before we open up the solar panels. I may have done a little bit of overkill there as far as the batteries were concerned, but, you know, really, when you've put all of this work into building a satellite network that is continuous, and it's the worst feeling in the world to lose control of a craft because you ran out of battery power. This one especially, it's rather large and quite expensive. So I'd really like not to lose it due to poor planning or stupidity. So alright, fire up our even longer range comms. I don't really need these to hit the two geostationary satellites, but figured it couldn't hurt to have a backup anyway. Alright. Now we'll go ahead and deploy these solar panels. We are completely clear of the atmosphere. There's nothing to tear them violently from the aircraft anymore. And we'll go ahead and open up. And that's right, we've done a triple stack of satellites. Activate long range comms on one of them just to make sure. And a solar panel just to make sure. So we're going to put 3 satellites in lunar orbit in hopes of sending a crew or maybe even some more drones out that way sometime in the near future. So we'll go ahead and we've got our node set and programmed. We're going to let the flight computer tell it to hold us on the node, and we'll just go ahead and let the flight computer make the burn for us too. Now, early on when I did start out playing this game initially, after many failures, I resorted to MechJeb for a lot of my node execution and planning. MechJeb helped a lot. I was able to learn a lot of what I can do in this game simply by watching how MechJeb did it. Now I don't use MechJeb anymore, I don't really feel the need to, but having this flight computer is kind of handy, and I'm kind of reminded of my old MechJeb days where it's, you know, plot this node, okay MechJeb, make it so. But I can't help but not trust it sometimes. MechJeb did crash me into quite a few things very early on, which is why I decided to watch and learn and then just do it for myself. But so far this one's looking pretty good. Gone on ahead and turned on the time warp because this is going to be a big long burn. It's a pretty heavy spacecraft and those are very tiny but efficient engines, so we'll just try to warp through as much of this as possible. I like how the flight computer there tells you how many meters per second and the time remaining on the burn. Because really, it's just going to operate by those 2 numbers. If it runs out of fuel or not, it's going to just keep assuming that it's doing what it should be doing. Alright, we're going to drain a little oxidizer from this forward tank, because we're not really going to need all of it for our return trip. We just need enough to get us into the atmosphere. We'll aero brake down until we can make a safe approach. And then we just need liquid fuel to power the jet engines to get us the rest of the way home. Alright. The computer has decided that we are done with that burn. We are obviously not done with that burn, but it's good enough because I don't really want to take the whole space plane into lunar orbit, just the pack of satellites. And every little bit that the space plane can get us closer is less work that the drivers on the satellites have to do, which, as you can see, there's not a very big tank of fuel on it. I planned this on purpose. It doesn't take a whole lot of delta V to maneuver around the moon. Alright, we're going to start getting our comms set up here, just to make sure that we can maintain contact. The second or third worst feeling in the world when playing this game is to lose contact with a perfectly good spacecraft and be unable to regain contact. Then it's just floating there aimlessly and dead and is quite a waste of money. So, sorry about the nighttime burn, guys. I know it's hard to see. But soon enough, we'll be in the daylight again. Soon. And I don't know, sometimes silhouetted spacecraft are very pretty. Just going on down the line, taking care of a little business. Yes, I missed some solar panels there. But who cares? Alright. Now really, we just need to go ahead and point it to prograde. And start replotting our node since the old one doesn't apply to this spacecraft. Alright, tell it to point. Whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Alright, I think the flight computer's gone a little crazy. Yeah, telling it to kill rotation has had no effect. So, alright, we'll turn that off. Try to wrestle this little guy in manually. Or by using time warp, which it's not going to let me do that either. Fine. I guess I'll press buttons. Oh, that certainly was weird. Each one of these satellites has its own SAS module, so the fact that there's 3 of those tiny modules on this pretty non-substantial spacecraft may have something to do with the uncontrolled rotation, or the flight computer's gone all HAL 9000 on me. I can't let you do that, Cosmo. Well, we will go to the moon today. Oh yes. We will go to the moon today. Alright. And we'll go ahead and let that gimbal assist with us pointing in the correct direction and fire it up. Not a whole lot of burn left to do here. Just gently, right about there. That's good. Alright. Now just doing a little more maintenance. Flying on out to the moon. We still have connection. I'm just going to go ahead and try to get all 3 of these synced in and switch our view over to moonocentric and start to plan our approach. Yep, the other way. There you go. Alright. See if we can't get this periapsis at a good place. Again, the lower you are, the more efficient your burn to achieve orbit is going to be, so we want to bring it in pretty low. I find about 10 kilometers is a pretty safe approach for the moon. You're not going to run into any terrain at that altitude. I have hit hills at about 7,500 to 8,000 meters elevation, which was shocking to say the least. I didn't think anything would really go up that high. Alright. Start plotting our orbit. 1.1 million. That puts us well within the range of the shortest range antennas that are on this little guy. And we'll tell the flight computer to hold the node and execute. Got those turned on, and yeah, I missed a solar panel in construction, so it's always going to be a little off. And we've completely lost our node. So is almost. Okay. Now, post-production Mead has no idea what the hell happened here. Still, I didn't change the node. Flight computer may have changed the node, or the orientation got screwed up somewhere. Because as you can see, the flight path is right where I want it to be. We're pointing right at the node, but yet we are burning in a completely ass wrong direction. Somehow, some way. I don't know what the hell happened, and I don't know why it took me, like 2 solid minutes to figure it out. Because there I looked at the map, it didn't really look like my trajectory was changing. I think, well, this thing's kind of slow, it's kind of heavy, alright. I come over here, and I should really be able to see that I am not pointing anywhere near retrograde. And the delta V required to make this maneuver is going rapidly down, but I am not anywhere near approaching having an orbit. So, I battle with the flight computer, finally get it to disable the node and tell it to find retrograde. It takes it a while, because again, way too much torque for such a tiny spacecraft. But then finally, make the burn manually after a bunch of wasted fuel. But not overly concerned with it. There was an excess of fuel. We got way closer to the moon on the spaceplane than originally anticipated. We'll adjust our orbit out there to about 1.8 million. Still well within the range of our comms. And I don't really care too much about the inclination of the orbit. Really, the more exposure it has to Kerbin and the less time it spends being blocked to Kerbin by the moon, the better. So we'll go ahead and plug that one in. Alright. And we just gotta get to where we are going. I know it's gonna take a little while, but Alright, coming up on it now, but flight computer wants to battle me. Seriously, flight computer. Yes. Excellent at spinning somersaults. We'll go back to using SAS and manual flight controls. Thank you very much. Alright. So really what my plan for these are is to set 3 satellites in orbits that are orbits that are the same distance but at different eccentricities, in hopes of gaining much better coverage. Really, the eccentricity part is to keep each satellite to have minimal time where it's hidden behind the moon, not in view of Kerbin, and a wide enough orbit to where they can still, between the 3 of them, paint the whole planet, which shouldn't be a problem. It'll look kind of like an atom. It'll be cool. But there's our first one. I'll take care of the rest later. But meanwhile, back with our space plane, everything has gone terribly, terribly wrong. I made a small burn to adjust its orbit inside of the atmosphere and told the flight computer to hold prograde. It decided prograde was at pointing straight up and not whichever way we were going. I don't know what drugs it was smoking or why it wouldn't share, but this was the result. What should have been a 5 or 6 orbit pass to slow down enough to make a re-entry has turned into one flat spinning belly flop single orbit re-entry that gave me lots of cause for panic and had me angrily turn off flight computer and try to wrestle this beast back under control. We were still moving very fast and plummeting very quickly. Since I hadn't planned on not deorbiting this thing for a couple more orbits, I still left the liquid ox engines on and did not turn on the jet engines yet. So this became quite a bit of panic as I tried to manually toggle the jet engines to active while also wrestling with the flight controls in hopes of please, please, please come back under control, please. Now, the thing I want to point out is my compulsive nature to pump fuel forward before separating the satellites paid off big. Because if you have the heaviest object on the plane towards the nose, it's going to tend to want to nose down. And well, when you're falling and the nose is pointing down, eventually you're going to start making lift and gain control. Which we're almost there, but it's going to give me just enough view of the tail here to turn off the liquid ox engines, turn on the jet engines, throttle it up, and save this massively expensive spacecraft from being splattered all over these dusty mountains. It was right about here when I let out the biggest sigh of relief ever, because losing this craft would have single-handedly bankrupted me and made things very difficult. Now the other problem is I was not intending on coming down this far from the Space Center, but I managed to save well more than enough fuel, like 200 units of fuel, and I figured, well, we'll run it at 2 engines and just see what happens. So, goosed the throttle, brought it up to altitude, throttled back to save fuel, and started trying to bring the big guy home. You know, real military drones have an auto return to home feature. If they lose signal from their base or command of operations, they will automatically use a built-in GPS system to return themselves to their designated point of origin, the airfield usually from which they are operated, or at least serviced from. I kind of wish that we had something cool like that here in KSP, so I could just leave it in orbit and say, yeah, you know, go home. And as with the last drone, I was really hoping to do a completely unpowered return, but that's never going to happen when you belly flop into the atmosphere half a planet away from where you want to be. But now that it's here, And like I said, I did test this little guy out, this big guy out, quite a bunch. I know that hitting the runway isn't going to cause spontaneous explosions, disassemblies. You never can be sure. Landings are always touchy. They always make me nervous. My palms always get a little sweaty. But they're always just so much fun to watch. Flare it. We'll bounce a little bit. Who cares? Hit the brakes. Another one brought home safe. Slowly but surely. Big heavy craft. Brakes are tough. Anyway, guys, that's all we got for this episode. Join us next time. I think we're going to go back to the moon. Maybe. Anyway, I'm the Cosmonaut. Thanks for watching.